I had a question for you to start out with, something actually specific here to Oklahoma. It's something I know that actually Mr. McDonald is familiar with himself. There's a case here where a female veteran, her name is Tziporah Pendleton, she was pregnant, a high-risk pregnancy, went to a specialist, a civilian doctor. That doctor recommended a couple of procedures. Later on, the VA denied those procedures, and as a result, she ended up losing her baby and nearly her life. She bled out. Afterwards, Sapora wanted to meet with the VA. She met with the chief of staff. She met with the head doctor here. She also met with the medical director. She met with Senator Inhofe's office, and a number of people from Washington, kind of in a collective meeting. Some of them were on speakerphone. At that time in that meeting, the chief of staff of the Muskogee VA here in Oklahoma said, "I will do an internal investigation." This was promised back in June. It is now, of course, late November, and after putting in a records request, neither Sapora nor I received any information back to indicate that, in fact, a study had been done. In fact, we received information to the latter saying that no documents existed. Wondering from your viewpoint, knowing all that Sapora has gone through and all she wanted was an internal investigation and answers, is this acceptable?
So, Marla, let me just first say I have a special place in my heart for my sisters in service because I am a veteran myself, and I am just terribly sorry for the loss that sister in service experienced. I am not on the medical side of VA, so I'm not familiar at all with this case that you have laid out. I will commit to you to carry that back to me when I go back over to VA today and make sure that the interim Undersecretary for Health, who handles all the medical side of things, looks at that issue and gets an answer back right away.
You know, I know that is one of the things, of course, too, that Mr. McDonald has said he wants to look into where problems are occurring so that resolutions can be found. Do you feel that that is important to find out where things went wrong or where things fell through the cracks in both the benefit side and the healthcare side?
So Marla, great lead into talking about, and I was just out in Oklahoma, both at Muskogee visiting our very large office out there that does compensation claims, does education claims, so helping our veterans go to school every single day, all with a paperless IT system, and doing a great job out there getting career opportunities from and good education with our veterans. But I also spent some time with the state and your state director, Rita Aragon, talking to women veterans from across the nation, across the state as well. Here's what I'd like to tell you we're doing on the non-medical side of VA to transform our veterans' experience with us. About 3 years ago, we started on this transformation effort where we had been doing claims historically in paper, 5,000 tons of paper we would go through with little rubber fingertips on our hands, trying to remember 850 diagnostic codes and a book this thick of rules in our head. We have completely transformed that process into a digital process, rules built into the system, in a way in which we're dealing with it all paperlessly, and as a result are doing a better job by our veterans who are receiving compensation resources for injuries they sustained while in theater. By example, a claim for us in that respect is in backlog if it's been in backlog 125 days. In March of 2013, we had 611,000 veterans waiting in a backlog. That was just not acceptable. We've gone through this transformation, and I can tell you in the last 18 months, we have reduced that backlog nationally by 61% and increased the quality of our decisions well over 90%. And I can tell you, Oklahoma veterans are even faring better. The Muskogee Regional Office has reduced its backlog of claims by over 70%. It's one of the ones leading in the nation. And their quality has been increased to really high levels, better than 97% for every medical issue inside of that claim. All of that because we transformed electronically, digitally, built rules in the system, brought us into the 21st century. But we have one more step to do that will be fundamentally game-changing, and this does relate to what the Secretary has been talking about. We have today built a portal called eBenefits, www.ebenefits.va.gov, that allows every veteran who wants to come online. It's free, file their claim online, upload their own medical evidence to us online, never touches our human hands, goes straight into our system, and now we can do their claim even faster and even better.
You know, Undersecretary,
not only can they get...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was
Yes,
just going to
please,
say,
Marla.
I think all these efforts are wonderful and veterans are very eager to hear about them. However, I feel like we repeatedly hear from veterans saying that the complexity is problematic. For example, I just talked to somebody yesterday who said that a claim was filed and it was filed incorrectly by the actual veterans themselves, who were supposed to be experts, kind of one of the veteran liaisons, if you will, that does it voluntarily. And that erroneous claim resulted in a denial. So is there anything to do to make this application process less complicated?
So great question, and it is very, Marla, you have hit it on the head, and our veterans know this, and we know this. It is extremely complicated, wired in law. Not something a VA can necessarily change on its own. We don't make laws, but we can certainly advocate, and we do, to simplify this process. Because it is way too complicated. Some of the things we're doing, though, to uncomplicate it. So first thing is, we have made an agreement with DOD and are now starting to see it for separating service members today. DOD is now taking responsibility for giving us in VA the complete medical history of that veteran's service. In previous years, I mean, just last year, we would in VA have to go hunt and peck across DOD, all different installations on ship, all different TRICARE facilities, medical facilities that military uses, to try to piecemeal together the medical evidence and the medical history of that veteran. Now they are doing that themselves, and they are certifying to us and giving it to us in one lump sum. That will fare well to take out some of the complexity of this process. The other part of this that we are doing and working is trying to simplify and our veterans' understanding of the evidentiary record through something called a fully developed claim, which you can learn about on eBenefits. There's a little bit of YouTube videos, there's little bits of information that tell a veteran explicitly what we need in order to make that claim decision. And finally, we are about to, over the next year, take and if we have your claim and it's all electronically, we're going to let you view exactly what we have on eBenefits so you can see what we see. And then if you have a question about, well, but you don't have that piece, then we can have a really good discussion about getting that piece and seeing if the veteran has it or if we have it and moving forward.
Well, and lastly, I know you mentioned, I know this is another healthcare related question, but I know you so kindly said that you would go and relay this information. Another concern which ultimately affects benefits that we've heard about in the Muskogee VA is even people higher up, some of the physicians, administration has come to us and said that they have been told to do what's called hard stops, which is basically say we're not taking any appointments or schedule an appointment knowing that they'll have to later cancel that because they don't have the staff to do it, thus making the waiting list appear shorter. In fact, from my understanding, the cardiology department had 8,000 consults waiting and that was reduced to 2,000. So what are you going to do to ensure that that situation gets addressed?
So Marla, that's already, that addressing of those kinds of issues in the health administration has already well begun. They are hiring physicians across the nation, 1,600 doctors, numbers of nurses, numbers of schedulers. We are already breaking down the communication channels to encourage from the lowest level of the organization all the way to the top, encourage people to let senior leaders other places know if they feel like they're not getting that message out. So encouraging people to raise those issues forward so things can be brought to bear. I will also say through the law that was established this summer for the health administration side, They have also now been doing extensive sending of veterans when they can't meet the 30-day threshold out into the economy, onto the commercial market in a fee-basis way. So bringing that care in quickly and getting those appointments established fast. I know they are beginning to deploy, even as this week, the Veteran Choice Cards to those most impacted in rural communities and others by some of the wait times, and have significantly drawn down the wait time. Are they there yet on the health side? I think my counterpart on the health side would say no, not yet, but they are not giving up until they are.
Well, thank you so much, Undersecretary, for taking the time to talk to us today. It was a pleasure.